For being here. This is a chilly night. I think it's like 57 degrees now, maybe less, because my watch said 57, but someone else said 53. But thank you for being here on this chilly night. My name is Yvonne Redard. I am the coordinator of family engagement for our district, and it really is a pleasure to see all of you tonight. We have a really awesome night for all of you, full of information. We have a lot of special guest speakers, a lot of my colleagues with a lot of knowledge, a lot of information to share with you, and they're eager to do so. And so, but more than anything, Happy New Year. Oh my goodness, it feels like I saw this meme somewhere that said, I want a refund. It's been 7 days and I want to return it. So there's a lot, but thank you all for being here. It means a lot to us. My job today is to just give you kind of an overview of what we're going to be discussing. Please know that all of the information that we're sharing with you tonight, we are recording this session as well, so it's going to be available for future use, but we're also going to be sharing the slide deck with all of you. So just be on the lookout for that on either this principal blast coming up on Sunday or the following. So I won't spend too much time on the learning objectives, but we have quite a few. And so our goal really is to talk about digital citizenship with all of you, especially as parents in the elementary schools. There's so much happening and so much knowledge that we want to share with you. So it's going to be a really good evening to share all of that. We want this space and this seminar to be really a welcoming space, an inclusive space for all of you. So as we think about all the information that's going to be shared, we want to build a safe space for you to be able to ask questions that you feel are pressing for you. We wanted to collaborate with all of you and really embrace every voice. Everybody has differences, and we want to just be mindful of that. We do have Post-its, big Post-it boards all across the room. So if you have a question, we did set up Post-its on your chair. Please, if you have a question, please put it up on our meeting parking lot. If we don't get to it today, just know that we are creating a document where we're going to be sharing with you all of the answers to the questions that you pose. So please feel free to get up. They're all over. So on your right, on your left, and in the back. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Michael Keller. He's the Director of Social and Emotional Support.
I'm back here. Hi, everybody. I didn't know you put my picture on this. That's interesting. So I'm also a videographer tonight. So I have the fortunate opportunity to lead the district's social and emotional support services. Work with Yvonne and with Alma at the Family Resource Center. And we have a team of 9 school counselors that serve students, 4 student support specialists who are also credentialed social workers or school counselors, providing really comprehensive systems of care for students and for families. So we're really excited about you being here tonight. I welcome you tonight. Enjoy the evening. Really important topic, and I look forward to a great presentation. I'm turning it over to Dr. Hatchell.
All right. Thank you. There we go. Here we are. There's me. I am the principal at El Moro. I used to be here at Top of the World, so some of you look familiar. Actually, a lot of you look familiar, so thank you for being here tonight. I wanted to give a shout out to our PTAs. How many of you are any PTA presidents here? PTA executive boards here? PTA members here? I wanted to just say that this evening came about because of you as parents. And last year, I know we sat down with some of our parents, and there was a concern about, especially in the elementary school, how do we navigate this? This is really tricky. I'm so grateful. I now have a almost 25 and 22-year-old, and I'm not in this world. I just kind of had to deal with Snapchat a little bit. I'm like, oh gosh, what's that? But we are with you as administrators and kind of know some of the stuff that we see. And I'll share with you that things like text messaging create problems, little peeks at cell phones here and there, at slumber parties. Like, we deal with that stuff, even though it happens on your watch. And I think that the idea is that we're all working together to really raise the best kids that we can. We don't have all the answers, but we can do the best what we can when we're working together. So we're here for you. Tom Turner, principal at Top of the World, we're here for you as you have questions. Like I said, we may not always have the answers, but we'll find out the best answers we can for you and walk with you together on this one. I wanted to share with you, hopefully this is not the first time that you've seen this, but as we are looking at how to keep our kids safe, how to raise great kids, we do everything in our school district with the lens of working with the learner profile. So this has been about a 3-year rollout that we've worked with together in collaboration with our parents. I see Emily, she was here, she was part of this process. Lauren was also part of this process through our school site councils and really, looking at what do we need to do to raise kids that are just as good and as productive as citizens and academians as we can. So this is a culmination of all of that work. When we look at, how do we navigate online behaviors? How do we create empathetic citizens? How do we create empowered learners? We know that our kids are going to be exposed to this stuff. We want to be responsible about it, and we want to guide them through it. And we're really doing it with this lens. And there are a lot of people here to support you, whether it's your principals, whether it's our Family Resource Center, whether it's with our wellness teams, yay, at our schools. But again, our PTAs, this is what we're doing together. Reach out at any time if you have questions. Again, I want to really emphasize that, and we're here for you. So with that, I want to go ahead and go to our next slide, which we have our Technology TOSA. So we're so lucky in Laguna to have this resource with us. So I'm going to introduce Kim Vogie, who's at El Moro with me, and Carrie Rebay, who's at Top of the World.
Hi everybody, my name's Kim, and I have been at El Moro for about 1.5 years, and this is my 31st year in education, and I am a mother of a 26 and a 23-year-old who were not raised with a device in their hands, which sometimes I used to, we had the DVD player in the car and videotapes had to rewind, so that thing was on demand. So I can definitely feel your pain with technology and your kids, and can speak to it through that mother lens and an educator for 3 decades.
And I'm Carrie Rebay, and I've been here at Top of the World for a long time. I think I'm in my 18th or 19th year, I lost count, but I love it so much, so that's why I'm still here. So I'm happy to see all of you. I actually came into my role though as the TOSA mid-COVID, so when we were learning from home, one of my main jobs was to help us stay afloat during that time and figure out what we could do to access all the kids from at home. So hopefully we'll have some interesting things to share with you tonight, and thanks for coming.
What is TOSA?
Oh, Teacher on Special Assignment. Okay. We're all an acronym, right? Okay. All right. So digital citizenship does happen in the classroom and it happens at home, but this is our focus for right now. And the core issues are obviously making sure that your students are safe and have their privacy, following all the FERPA and COPA laws, that there's no cyberbullying going on, that we're building that empathy that Dr. Hatchell mentioned from our learner profile, really getting kids to understand misinformation and critical thinking and knowing if they have reliable sources, and your digital footprint being your long-term impact. I was working with a group of high schoolers a few years ago and talking to them about, how do you keep in touch with your friends? You send them a text, you Snapchat, whatever. And so I brought in some of my primary sources from my high school years. I graduated in '89, and I still have the letters that my then boyfriend, now husband, wrote to me. And he'd fold them up and give them to his buddy Chris, who dated my friend Gina, who got them to me because we went to different schools. So all of those things that we had in our childhood, nobody prints pictures anymore, they're just on your phone. So learning to live in this digital world. And then our digital citizenship lessons really help build those critical life skills, ethical decision making, and really raising communication. Our kids talk to each other through screens. I don't know if you've noticed that your kids don't really make eye contact with you sometimes. And so really working on that. And I also am the PALS advisor at El Moro, and so we talk a lot about making eye contact and having purposeful interactions with people. And we do that in our lessons in the classroom. Both Carrie and I model lessons in classrooms and teach your students. And so really try to hit those. Even though we're using a device, we're still going to talk and use words in complete sentences, that kind of thing. So,
Oh, sure. And so as Kim mentioned, we are going into the classroom, the two of us, to support teachers and help model lessons. And so naturally, teachers are always trying to integrate everything they possibly can, right, into a lesson. So just wanted to provide you with a few examples of how technology is, it's not a separate thing anymore. We're not just going to the computer lab and it's a separate experience. It's really part of the students' everyday lesson. And so these are just a couple of language arts examples, but students might be doing a writing task or a research task. But while they're doing that, they're learning not only the proper format, but also, they're learning the copyright and giving credit to others, learning how to make sure they're not plagiarizing and things like that, which is a portion of digital citizenship. How do we have our own ideas and not take from others, and also just being safe about it. And also we start to teach them how to identify reliable sources. So that's something that would happen during a lesson like that. Also collaborative writing projects, how do they interact with each other? Maybe they're on a Google Doc or a Google slide, and something as simple as not deleting somebody's slide is a big thing. So how can we be kind and considerate and careful with our work, not just in everyday books and paper, but also on computers. So I always tell them, you're not gonna scribble in a library book, right? So why would we, mess with someone else's slide? So that conversation actually happens a lot. So there's teachable moments, I guess is what I'm getting at, integrated into every lesson. So there's some language arts examples just to show you, and then also we have some math and science. So whether they're recording a video to help explain their thoughts or their thinking during a math problem, they're respectful of each other, and if they're sharing ideas, their comments are kind. And then just learning how to persevere. Also with problem solving, we do some coding lessons too in the classroom, and so learning how to work with each other. So that kindness kind of carries out into the digital citizenship as well. So just to give you a few ideas. We're very fortunate to have a district librarian, so I don't know, Stephanie Gamache there in the back. And to create a streamlined digital citizenship lessons, in addition to what's naturally integrated in the classroom, Stephanie is able to reach all the kids, K-5, and teach a variety of digital citizenship lessons to all of our students when they visit the library. So these are some of the common themes that the lessons come from, whether it's safe searching, as I mentioned before, database and fair use, online safety, media balance, and then the last one is the kindness online. So like I said, it's nice to have everyone having the same experience no matter what teacher or classroom they're in, from K to 5th grade. So, and then do you want to talk about this, or I can keep going?
So one of the hallmarks of me coming to Laguna Beach was finding out that teachers get to participate in what's called unit design. And so teachers are intentionally writing lessons with intentionality towards those goals in the learner profile that have students use technology in meaningful ways. And so we take real world problems that we want students to solve with like an overarching question, and have them have authentic experiences with that. And then that's done through building up durable skills. You'll sometimes hear them called soft skills, like, kids know how to shake a hand and make eye contact, but those are really the durable skills. And then we also do that through our signature practices. So there's common practices that we use across all grade levels, K-12, so that students are getting the practice that they need, learning a skill, and then applying the skill. So it's been really fun, and you will not find that in every district. I've worked in a couple different districts, and you won't find that. So it's really, I think it's important for us to point that out. And then strategies for integration include student reflection. We've been really hitting, at least at El Moro, the glows and grows of assignments. So what's something that's really good? And then also where's an area you can improve, so that they learn how to give feedback and learn how to take feedback. Because your kids don't want to listen to you when you tell them what they did was wrong. I have a 23-year-old, okay? I don't know anything. He used to try to tell me that Google lost his paper. I'm like, buddy, I'm 3 times over Google certified. I got this. So we really are trying to work with them, building up relationships with each other and being able to say, hey, your slide looks really good, but the color doesn't look so great on the big screen. So finding a soft way to say something and still provide that feedback. Class norms. So the idea of doing the right thing at the right time in the right place and having high expectations across the campus. We have technology embedded into our PBIS program. The acceptable use agreements that you read thoroughly and sign with your child online at registration, right? And you read all of the ones on the apps that you download on your phone. I know you do. And then the teachable moments, which happen all the time. So when people say, what do you guys do for digital citizenship or making sure that kids, it probably happens 50 times a day in a classroom and you don't even really realize it because it's just become part of the thing. It's like citizenship. You know, we all knew growing up we got those citizenship awards, and now digital citizenship is that other layer. So it's everything that you do in real life, you do online, that if it's a good citizen type thing. So that's...
oh wait, Kim, pause.
Yes.
Kim's like, what are you doing? This was not planned, but they just know this is how I roll when I find like that there is a connection to something. It is a teachable moment. But as I was looking at, this is what we do in school. As parents, this is really what you should also be doing at home. So when you look at how do we apply these things that we're doing at school, every single one of these things in some way you can apply at home. So when we're looking at class norms, you should have your own child norms at home for what technology looks like for use in your home. You are the parent, take ownership of that and communicate about that explicitly. Had to do the same thing. When my kids did Instagram accounts, same thing. What are those teachable moments? When I see the picture of my daughter like hugging Peter Pan in her short shorts, I said, Holly, great picture with Peter Pan, but let's look at those shorts. And if you are a teacher that are interviewing with a principal someday, and I'm looking on your Instagram account, what kind of an image is that going to give your employer someday? Teachable moment. Reflect on that. Have your child think about the pros, the positive, and the unintended consequences of what that picture may portray, because they probably aren't thinking about that as a 10-year-old girl. But that's the teachable moment that you as parents can end up putting into play. Acceptable use agreements, class norms, same thing. But sorry, had to do the teachable moment. So
You're my boss. All right, and then here's going to go over our key takeaways.
So it's, obviously digital citizenship is essential and achievable when integrated into existing curriculum and lessons. So that's what Kim and I our main goal is to include that digital citizenship as naturally as possible and supporting that in the classroom. And, we're starting small. So like I mentioned with Stephanie Gamache teaching lessons in the library, all the students are getting the same lesson in certain topics, so that way there's some continuity there. And that's we know that we've really addressed those key points that teachers can then support within their own classroom. And then encouraging, school-wide digital citizenship culture, that's a main goal as well. We included in a variety of things, whether it be our SEL focus for the month or just even our presentations with the kids during our assemblies and whatnot. And we just want to empower them so they can use technology as a tool in a positive way. And so they're not, we don't want them to be afraid of technology, of course, but we want them to have those thoughts. And like Dr. Heschel was saying, have those reflecting moments where they're thinking about their actions. Of course, we want that all the time for everything, right? We're just adding the digital piece into it now. So thank you. Let's see. I think, we have one more thing. And so, as Dr. Heschel was mentioning, there are many suggestions as parents, but we kind of bulleted them here for you to see. Modeling that responsible technology use, I can tell you a guilty person for, having my phone out more than I should, or, my job is technology, so I have that computer open a lot. But just trying to model as much as possible what's reasonable and what's appropriate for the kids in front of them. Establishing clear rules and boundaries. I have a 15-year-old and I have a 10-year-old, and they actually both have phones, and so we've had to talk about rules and expectations. And in my house, especially with my 10-year-old, the screen isn't used when we're not present. That they're not in a room by themselves and things like that, so I can monitor. And then teaching online safety and privacy. That's definitely something that's really important. My kids have to ask first, before they're going on something new. So that way I can look at the privacy stipulations and the online safety for that particular app or whatever it might be. And then being kind, you know, kids can easily send a message. You know, it's one thing to say something to a friend or someone else in person, but it's so easy to send that little message that may get read the wrong way, or maybe you didn't mean it, but it's hard to take back. Once it's sent, it's sent. So my 15-year-old Snapchat, once you send that, it doesn't matter if it disappears to you, somebody somewhere still has it. So you always have to think first, so that's good. And then also engaging in digital media together. So we don't want, like I said, to scare kids away from technology, but engage with them, experience it together. And you know, if there's an app that they want, try it out with them. So that's just our little advice. Okay. All right, and now we have our wellness team coming up to give you some more lovely information.
Hi, good evening. I was gonna say good morning. Good evening, everybody. I am Tristan Wayne, and I am the student sports specialist over at El Moro.
Hi, I'm Miss Amelia Michione. I'm the student sports specialist at Top of the World.
So we're gonna be talking a little bit about SEL and the digital world today. So we're gonna take a little moment. We call it a mindful moment. And just in the classroom, we do turn and talk. So that's where you get your elbow partner. And you turn and talk. So our little prompt here is, how does social media use affect your mood or stress level? So think reflectively on yourself. So go ahead and give you guys 1 minute to turn to your little elbow partner and talk about what you feel. How social media affects your mood. Yes.
I like the likes. I post,
Yeah.
I want the likes. I want the picture that gets all the, like the cute picture of my puppy. I want to go see how many likes I got for that. So,
Totally.
and how funny my joke is, you know? So that could put me in a good time.
Yeah. I need to be negative, but I could say, you know, I see my friends post a lovely picture and I wasn't there. You know, so there's that too.
Oh, that's FOMO. Have you heard the word FOMO? That's fear of missing out. So if you hear your kids say that.
I was going to say, I feel like my life stinks and everyone else's life is awesome.
Right. I think, yeah,
I
I think.
feel like my life stinks by the way.
Not after,
Everyone presents their perfect life online.
Yes, very much
It's
so.
the end of the cycle, like, why don't I have that?
I think it definitely depends too. Like for the fires example, if we like look at social media, that can be really jarring, and it's hard seeing it triggers you. Yeah, it can put you in a darker space. But then, like kind of like you said, you see pictures of puppies, and you're like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good, right? So it's definitely like a balance. So I am going to do a little bit of a plug here. We just had a book club that ended, and that's for the book The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And I'm going to give you a quick summary, but you should still totally read it. And we have actually a couple of copies in the back there, so if you have not had a chance to read through it, please feel free to grab a copy. And if they're all gone, you can write your name down and we'll make sure to get you one as well. But what he basically says is that we're currently living through the great rewiring, right? So kids are nowadays they're glued to their devices, and it can lead to deeper things like lower self-esteem. It's connected to depression and related disorders. But what we could be focusing on is a play-based childhood, right? So having your kids go more into a natural setting and learning how to get those problem-solving skills, right? You're running and you fall on the ground, and then you have to learn to pick yourself up, right? Or go find an adult for help. And learning to build those relationships with people face-to-face. All those good things. And on here, like we said, this will be sent to you. So there's some links I have. That's the Amazon link to the book, but you can get it for free here. And I also have a resource guide on here for social emotional health for the family. So it has really great conversation starters to have with your kids, just to make sure that you're keeping the conversation going. Different resources as well on there, different other books. And then this last one is the Archwell Foundation. This is actually a parent support group for people dealing with social media issues with their kiddos. And it's actually started by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, which is really cool. And on there they have resource guides that are super helpful, and they talk about each app. So I have one for TikTok where it talks about the lingo you might hear, how to use the app, what it looks like, what a feed is. There's Instagram and all that, so I definitely would check that out, as well as some tools and trainings. Let's get into age-appropriate content. So one thing I really want to drive home with you guys, social media apps, most of them require you to have a 13-year-old is the minimum age. And I know a lot of kids bypass that, but it is so important that we are keeping that in mind. The Jonathan Haidt from Anxious Generation actually said that kiddos shouldn't even be on the apps until they're 16, just because their minds are still maturing. And I mean, 13-year-olds loose on an app can be a lot. So one thing you can do, make sure that you're sitting down and watching content together as a family. That way you can make sure that what they're watching meets your family moral guidelines and what you want them to be seeing. And one thing, a lot of kids, sometimes you'll just give them the iPad. You're like, oh, watch YouTube Kids. Things slip through the cracks a lot of the times, and you want to make sure that you know what they're watching. Even on Kids Netflix, sometimes things can be for 13-year-olds and you have a 5-year-old. So it's important to keep your eyes on that. I have a link on here to Common Sense Media, which I know a lot of us have talked about. But it's a really great resource guide. Has all the FAQs you could need based off of age, topic, and platform. So I definitely recommend checking that out. Some tips and tricks for you guys. One, set up device restrictions. So I know if you have an iPhone, you can go on settings to screen time. And on there you can set times, you can set, I believe, or you can block certain apps and certain things on the apps. It even has a little switch you can click for sensitive content, so if it sees and recognizes something that maybe is inappropriate, it will block it on the phone. So I would definitely take a look at that if you have iPhones. And then you personally sitting down with them and setting up the accounts that they have and making sure that you have the password. That way you can log in at any time. And so that you know you can set on certain apps the boundaries as well that you would want to see. And another one that's huge is understanding how an app works. So I know maybe a lot of you aren't on TikTok, so you may not understand what you're looking at when you go on there. Same with Instagram, like, you ever heard of the word DM? As a direct message, right? So that's what somebody can send you, like a specifically just talking to you, or you can have a DM in groups. Like, it's very complicated if you don't understand. So making sure you understand what that looks like and what your kids are allowed and not allowed to do on that. And then understanding what an algorithm is. Does anybody know what an algorithm is? Okay. So an algorithm basically is kind of where, I'll give you an example. I like to look at cute kittens, right? So if I look at a picture of cute kitten on Instagram, Instagram knows what I'm looking at, and then it starts showing me lots of pictures of cute kittens, right? Right now I'm on nail Instagram, so I like get cute sets of nails. But that basically, it knows what you're looking at, and it will program it for you guys to continue to keep seeing it. So you can see kind of honestly what your kids are looking at as a way to sort of track, but also a way to sort of weed through what you don't want them to see. So a lot of like developers, that's what they use. Continue to have open communication, making sure that your kids feel comfortable enough to come up to you and report things. Because sometimes they may be seeing things and going, oh, I don't want to tell because I don't want to get in trouble. But be an open space, that way we can help support them and get through these things, right? And then making sure to establish clear rules and consequences. If I catch you doing something inappropriate, if I catch you saying something that you shouldn't be saying to somebody, this is exactly what's going to happen. The phone's going to be taken away for a week, or whatever it is that you guys decide to do.
Okay, so I'm sure many of you might be familiar with the impact of chronic social media use. And I don't want to scare you. Again, it's like we're living in the digital age. We just want to be prepared and know when things are getting a little bit more serious, right? Otherwise, it's a very helpful tool. But just some implications, right? In the school setting, we can see increased distractions and decreased academic performance due to excessive use, or reduced focus and time spent studying. At home, you might notice reduced family time and distraction from other obligations such as chores and homework, and a decrease in participation in hobbies and interests. That's especially worrisome because when we think about decrease in hobbies and interests, like this is the age when your kid should be like excited for life and trying new things, right? And when they start to lose that, that's often when we start slipping into mental health concerns, right? So on the more severe level, we've seen with chronic social media use an increase in anxiety and depression, as some of you so bravely shared out, right? Like that FOMO, that acronym, it's the fear of missing out. So maybe your friends are posting something fun online and you're like, oh gosh, I wish I was there, you know, but I had soccer practice or I had family time. But we can sometimes have those expectations on ourselves. And then again, just social media being such a filtered reality that you're seeing everyone's highlight reels, right? Or now with AI information, right? It has this filtered reality that might make us feel like we are comparing ourselves to others or whatever it might be. And then lastly, we've seen that chronic social media use affects our ability to have interpersonal skills and empathy with others, right? So just something to keep in mind with chronic social media use. But there's strategies. There's strategies to manage the influence, and you can do a lot as a parent to help your child. So enrich your child's online life. I know that sounds typical, but truly you want to provide that structure to their lives where they're enriched in many different activities. So maybe it's after school programs or Boys and Girls Club, getting them to do exercise, which is great for like natural dopamine, right? Boost self-esteem, and this also goes with like enriching their child's offline life. I think of volunteering. That's such a good way to boost your child's self-esteem. So volunteering at a local organization, giving back to others. Maybe it's baking cookies for the class unexpectedly, or drawing a picture for a classmate or a teacher. Those small acts of kindness can really make them feel positive about themselves and feeling important in the world. Building coping skills, of course, mindfulness is something you hear often, but especially with social media use and devices, right? There's so much dopamine that is happening when they're scrolling or engaging in video games. So being able to kind of ground themselves after maybe a session or something like that, just making them feel more connected to their environment. And building, sometimes people talk about a self-care menu, so just having maybe like different emotions or just different ideas that they can choose from. Maybe I can grab like a science kit at Target and try that out, or maybe I can go for a walk. And especially for dealing with boredom, I think just allowing your kids to be bored is okay. I think we've forgotten that because technology, everything's so easily accessible to us, and sometimes I'm guilty of it as well. I'm like, I can't stand being bored, I always need to be moving. So just validating that it's okay for your kids to be bored sometimes, right? And they'll find something to do. That's not with technology, I promise. It'll fuel their creativity. Lead by example, which we've already talked about. There's so many times where kids come into my office and I'm having a whole conversation, but I'm also replying to an email and I didn't even realize it. I'm like, what did we even talk about? So even though you might think you're detaching from your computer, just taking that extra mile to really put down the devices and lead by example so that your kids can see healthy media and technology use. Knowing the signs, this kind of goes into mental health. So any changes in sleep, diet, and sleep, diet, and mood and behavior is a big sign that they might be struggling with their mental health. So just knowing if they're not getting enough sleep, or if they're oversleeping, they're not eating as much, overeating, any drastic changes like that, or even in their grades, is a good sign that they might need some counseling or more help from the school, and that's where we can definitely come in and help support you. And then lastly, just nurture healthy relationships. We've talked a lot about keeping open communication, and that just kind of means active listening, really listening to what your child says, putting away your devices, having one-on-one time, doing a special activity with them, just to build that bond so that they know that they can always come to you if they ever need anything.
Alrighty. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about bullying versus cyberbullying. So one thing that we talk about, I have right here in the corner, is rude, mean bullying. And we do this a lot in our second step, which is our SEL curriculum, our social emotional learning, that we do directly in the classrooms, as well as PBIS, which is positive behavior intervention supports. And that's kind of where we talk about school expectations. So we do go in and talk about this several times throughout the school year. But rude is a one-time situation. So I may say, oh, I don't really like your shirt today. I was kind of, why would you choose that, right? I say it once, move on. Mean is if I come back tomorrow and I'm like, you are doing it again. I really don't like your shirt. Why would you choose that? Right? So that's the second time. And then bullying is where I'm repeatedly doing it. I'm coming back in, I'm constantly putting you down, and it's an over and over occurrence, right? And so when we think about cyberbullying, it's like that, but on a wider scale, right? So it allows for anonymity, which can be really scary, right? I could go online right now and make an account and say that I'm Santa Claus, and I can start talking and saying mean things directly to you or about you on a large platform. And so that makes it a whole bigger monster. Like I said, it goes to a larger audience. So if you're not on a private account, anyone can go on, see your stuff, and can comment on it. And it could be anywhere, anytime, any person, right? So having that access is really scary. And then we talked about this a little bit before, but leaving a digital trail. When you post something, it doesn't go away, right? So if your child posts a picture hugging Peter Pan in the shorts, that may not come off the internet, even if you already put it on there and you deleted it. And then one thing we can do, though, is the ability and access to utilize technology. So if we don't provide them that ability to log on and do that, they're not going to see it and they're not going to be a part of it. Because we have some of our students too, we had a situation with a text message thread, and some of the kiddos didn't even know what was going on because they were not a part of the thread. And so if they don't have access to it, they're not necessarily as susceptible to it. And there's a lot of different channels that it can go through, right? It can be an email, it can be a text message, which I think is the biggest one that we're kind of seeing, is those group texts that are forming. And then there's a big group text where they're talking about something, but then there's a side group text of less people who are talking about something else and about the people in the group chat, right? So there's a lot of different means where it can go through. Instant messaging, and another big one is social media platforms, right? I talked a little about what a DM is. On Instagram, that's a direct message. There's also, you can send a snap, which is a Snapchat, and on Snapchat there is a feed where you can text, and a Snapchat you think goes away immediately, like it's a picture, but the chats don't go away, right? And so there's all these different nuances in it. Another one that kids have is called Discord. That's sort of like a Skype, Zoom hybrid thing where you can voice chat, you can video chat, you can share your screens. I know Officer Ashley's going to get into that a little bit later. But it's a dark, messy web that you can get into. And some of the strategies that people use, you can send insults, you can send threats, spread rumors, you can impersonate, just kind of like the anonymity. I actually had a 14-year-old family member, and she actually came up to me while we were at a family party over the holidays, and she was like, thought she was really cool. She's like, look at this Snapchat I just got. And it was from somebody named Santa Claus, right? And he was like, how old are you? And, oh, like, send me your picture. And she's like, what do I say back? And I was like, you say nothing. Nothing at all. And I was like, you delete that immediately and you remove that from your account, right? So they're finding ways to get in there. And the anonymity part, I think, is one of the scariest things. And then exclusion, like I kind of said in the group chats, they're leaving certain kids out and talking about students over the text messages, so it can be a lot.
Discipline, okay, progressive discipline. I know easier said than done, but it's so important that we have some sort of, standard for social media, and then we're setting rules that we, and expectations that we can follow through on, okay? So, as we've already talked about, setting clear expectations and guidelines for what social media or, device use is going to look like in your household. Maybe have your kids input in it as well, because they're more likely to follow expectations and rules that they have contributed to. Of course, within reason, right? We're getting their input, but we're negotiating. Open communication, just again, that active listening, being willing to hear them out in a non-judgmental space to really make sure that they feel safe to come to you when they have questions about online safety and responsible media use. And then for initial conversations or initial interventions when there are minor infractions such as posting inappropriate comments, maybe you start with a verbal warning, a discussion about the issue, and a reminder of the expectations. So that's kind of like the basis, right, of you're providing warnings, you're having conversations, and you're monitoring it. But with more escalating circumstances, you have to escalate the consequences. So if some problems persist, such as cyberbullying, inappropriate comments, etc., not following the guidelines for when we're shutting off our phones at night, etc., we should increase the consequences. So this could look like limiting screen time. As we've talked about, there's a way that you can, enter in a certain passcode so the app shuts off and then they're locked out. Monitoring access, so now I have to have access to your accounts, or I have to be following you on Instagram so I can see what you post, or I'm going to be looking at what happens, when you hand your phone into me at night. And in severe cases, deactivation of accounts, which I know is like the end of the world. It's easier said than done, but please do what's best for your family, right? And it could be very helpful in serious violations and sometimes necessary. Obviously, this can be very difficult, and especially just in this quick setting right now as I'm giving you this information. So just know that we're partners with you on this, and Tristan and I both are at the Family Resource Center once a week, and we're available to do parent consultations and parent coaching. So if you want to start, if you have a problem and you're like, I don't know how to implement this progressive discipline with my child, or we've had this conversation 5 times and I know I need to take away their phone, but I don't know how, like it can be really scary. So we're happy to coach with you on that. I know it can be a very difficult decision and it's unique for every parent. So please don't hesitate to reach out and we'll help you through it. Okay, Officer Routine.
Sorry, we're just talking about, Connie over there. She's like, no, she owns the phone. Well, I'm 37 years old, and I guess technically my mom and dad still own my phone. Even if I give them the money for the bill or anything, but we'll talk about that. Anyway, I'm Ashley Curtine, one of your school resource officers.
Danny Lopez, also school resource officer.
And we have the best jobs in the world. For those of you who don't know us, we bounce around from the 4 schools. In addition to my 2 children at home, 2,700 other kids, or about wherever we're at now with the district, are our children. We spend more time with your kids than you do. Spend more time with your kids than we do our significant others, our kids as well. And so that's why I like to kind of start with that, to remind you that you are the parents, not the friend. We're their friends. The friends that they get to play with at school, those are their friends. Your job, while they're on your payroll, is to protect them. And it doesn't matter if they hate you, it doesn't matter if they stomp their feet, you take that door down, you turn off the Wi-Fi, you're protecting them. And that's your job, because we have handcuffs on the back of our belts, wherever Danny keeps his at. And we never want to put them on your kids. And we don't want to go put them on bad guys that might, or girls who might hurt your kids, but that's where we're going. And that's what we spend a lot of our time doing when we aren't having fun, either embarrassing your kids, having real life conversations with them, kicking their butts out here at playing basketball, or decorating our cars, where we're just embarrassing all over Orange County. So I'll jump right in here. We're just going to cover primarily just the crimes that are related, because almost every single crime now that is committed can be related. It all comes back to a cell phone, a digital device, a laptop, something. Our poor nerd guy who does all of our forensic dumps with phones, he's overwhelmed, because literally almost everyone that gets arrested is having their device taken from them. And kids are not, they are included in this. I cannot begin to tell you how many kids we have seen inappropriate pictures of and from, and so many of them have parenting apps on them. So you think you're monitoring, it slips through the cracks, and that's not on you, but we have to work together with that. So sextortion is the #1 crime right now. It took over elder fraud. And so we used to, grandma's getting the phone call saying, hey, little Johnny just got kidnapped. Send me $5,000 via Western Union or else. Now it's happening to little Johnny on Instagram, who's receiving a message from someone who's most likely in a call center, that's pretty much what they look like now, overseas somewhere, so we can't go chase them down right away. And they're saying, hey, I'm Miss America, you're super cute. Can you send me a picture? While they're distracted, they've got this screen right here. So kiddo's like, all right, maybe there's a TV on in the background. They're not thinking twice. Oh my gosh, there's a girl that thinks I'm cute. They're not thinking, no, Miss America is really going to reach out to you and wants to date you. No, that's not really Jake Gyllenhaal's brother. True story, we had that one. Who wants to date you? And so they get them to send the pictures, they wear them down, and it happens like that. And the first picture is usually sent within 4 hours, and then there's a message that comes in that says, send me more or else. And what they do is they take the friends list, because all the kiddos like the likes, so all of their accounts are public, and they say, hey, this is mom, this is grandma, or whoever it is that's following. They quickly do a Google search because it's really, really easy to do, and they find out who it is and find an email. And then they say, here it is, I'm going to send it to them. And they show the body of the email, everything is ready to go. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of ugly things happen from that. And so sextortion finally is being prosecuted. We are a part of an FBI task force. It's called Internet Crimes Against Children. And I always like to mention that because it helps us out big time. We utilize resources all over the country to keep your kids safe from these kinds of crimes. It always comes back to how could we have prevented this? Take this back. Central charging station at home. Because legally, if something happens to your kiddo, and whether maybe they got into something at school and they did something they weren't supposed to, our jobs are to keep them out of trouble. We're the fun police. We're not the ones pulling you guys over for being on your cell phones.
Well, please don't do that.
We're having a good time with your kiddos, and so when we have to take the phone, a lot of times we'll run into legal issues where even though you gave us permission, well, you don't take it, say at 9 o'clock at night, there isn't a central charging station to show, even though, yeah, you paid the bill, we still need a little more control. You need to have control of that. And so we run into issues where we can't solve crimes that way. We can't protect your kids if you are not taking over your devices. And a lot of times you don't realize that they set up, or you have a family iCloud account, or some kind of family sharing account that's linked to the computer, to the iPad sitting on the coffee table, on the phone that they're using. Pretty much anything except for a walkie-talkie. And so now all of a sudden there's something inappropriate linked to you. And then you go, say, on a work trip and you're connecting to someone's Wi-Fi, and now you just spread that without realizing it. And so we have to chase down a lot of things where even sextortion could be linked to you. Being in possession of child sexual abuse material, commonly known as child pornography, can be linked back to the family. And that's the last thing that we want. And it's really funny because when we have conversation with the kids, sometimes nothing's like, it's just not working. It's not hitting. But if we say, if you're not going to be kind to anyone else, can you please be kind to your mom? Can you respect your mom? Water works. Right away. Makes me almost kind of, but. So that's why protect yourself with that. Human trafficking. Oh my gosh. I think we're kind of tired of talking about it. But again, it all starts back with the devices. Our poor kiddos are getting groomed. Primarily our girls, 13 to 19 for this. It happens in Laguna Beach. It's not the scary movies that are fun to watch where some, Liam Neeson comes on in and swoops you up. It's someone who's a pimp online who's saying, hey, I want to be your boyfriend. And they do. They take the kids out on dates. They buy them things. And then all of a sudden they threaten. And then the kids start doing tricks. It's not typical over here where the kids are taken to, say, Beach Boulevard and they're working a blade. They're just all of a sudden, when they would normally be going out and having fun with their friends, that's what they tell you, they're going and having to do other things. And again, it all started with the phone. Cyberbullying, I think ladies did a great job covering it. In 2020, it actually became a misdemeanor. And that became an actual crime that our district attorney does file on because of COVID, because of keyboard warriors. We can all be tough and buff on the internet and behind these devices. If you're going to bully, I guess do it in person, because now we're actually going to punish you with it. And then again, the child pornography. So our biggest thing is just remember, you own these devices. If you have to give them to your kid, totally understand. I have a 5-year-old who is terrified of his tablet but loves it at the same time because he's a cop's kid. And so he thinks that there's bad guys everywhere. I'm like, no, dude, we live in a nice area in South Orange County. You're okay. But I hope to God I can control him with that fear forever. YouTube Kids, really, there's things that are popping up on there. Disney Plus makes me so mad right now because Hulu is associated with it, and there's a lot of mature content out there. For some reason, my son figured out how to watch The Rookie. I'm like, okay, why? No. So you just be mindful of that kind of stuff, even with Disney Plus, YouTube, everything. What else do we need to cover?
The one thing I kind of want to touch on really quick is that I always tell parents the same thing. Giving a child a phone is a great tool for the right reasons. The problem is it's not a gateway for your child to the world, it's a gateway for the world to your child. Now all these parental settings, that's great. The problem is there's applications, there's new things coming out daily, and that we just can't keep up with it. Not just on the law enforcement side, but on the parental settings side. There's a running joke within public service. There's rules and policies enacted after things happen because we couldn't predict it. Well, that's the problem with these apps and these different things that are happening online. We can't predict everything that's going to happen. We only find out after the fact. And that's the tough thing about these devices. So always, like Ashley said, have that central charging station. Periodically screen their stuff in their phone. At the end of the day, who pays the bill? Who owns it? Come on, you know the answer. Come on. There we go. So make sure you maintain control over that. Just because it's a tool for them to be in touch with you, it's also a tool for them to be in touch with other people as well.
And I should probably get a job with them, but Gap phones, Gap, it's a company, they make smart watches, they might make phones as well. And I'm so proud of the group of parents that we had. Emily, what was, you guys were part of that one, weren't you?
The spring PTA event?
Yes, they.
I mean, we did a survey, and that was like Gap. A lot of people started with Gap watches and then went to Gap phones. Good place to be.
Yeah, so we had a group of parents who tried out the Gaps. They look just like an Apple iPhone. I want to push this, which is great because the kids who are looking at them, they don't realize it's not an iPhone. So, you know, they don't have that social pressure with it. I took a group of Thurston girls out for lunch because they just needed a break from the mean girl drama. Like, for sure, get that. Let's go get milkshakes. And it was so cute because they've got their Gab watches and I'm watching them and they're like sending each other fart noises and sending each other emojis. And like, oh my gosh, this is so refreshing because they're getting to be kids. You know, they were 12-year-old girls who were coming up to me wanting to escape the drama of school that was way ahead of them, remove them from that, and they were getting to act their age. And so we were the last generation, all of us, who got to play outside till the lights came on. But all of our kids are the first ones who get to go play with strangers 24/7 by giving them the devices. So let your kiddos be kids. Let us be the friends. We can also have those ugly conversations. You can blame us. You can make us the bad guys. Hey, Officer Ashley and Danny said that I can't give you your phone, or a bad guy's going to come get you. Whatever it needs, whatever you need to do. Do whatever it takes. We're here to help you. And if you have any questions, you can reach us. We have LBUSD emails, and I think, yep, you can pop that up. We have business cards in the back, but please know, we tell your kids this, and I know a lot of you have heard it. We are really, really there for them. We have an Instagram. The kids really do send us direct messages. There's a great group of girls at the high school who started a club that's all about, they wanted to call it, what was it? Baddies spilling the tea or something. Like, no, can't do that. But your kids want to talk about real life things that are happening to them, and they need someone to go to. And so we thank you for trusting us. I know as a parent, I hope that my kiddos have someone at school for that. And we do not take our jobs lightly. So please never never hesitate to reach out to us.
Talk about digital footprint. That picture will last forever in a cloud, and I will pay the price. I'm just going to wrap this up quickly here. So many ideas, strategies, and resources here tonight. A lot of student discipline is caused by or made worse by cell phones. A lot of the issues that Officer Ashley and Danny and everyone else brought up, they stem from kids having cell phones, which is why there is a movement afoot now to delay giving kids cell phones. And research supports that, legislative actions support that, you as the parent can support that also. That's okay. And a lot of this reminds me of my previous job. About 8 years ago, I started the esports movement on campuses. So I would stand in front of adults, parents, telling them why video games in schools was an okay thing. And I would be accompanied by this researcher from UCI, Dr. Constance Steinkuhler, a preeminent world-famous researcher in esports, that's a thing. And she would answer parents who would say, how is this okay? Especially given the games that students play, that kids play, that adults play online. Why is this okay? And she would say, first of all, Minecraft is okay. Every other game can be a problem. Well, how is it we're supposed to allow this on campus? How, as a parent, am I allowing this? And her answer was, play with them. No matter what game they are playing, if you're playing with them, you're talking to them about what they're playing, you're showing reasonableness as a parent, you're having a conversation about it, It's the same thing that we see here. You as a parent can have a conversation, be involved if your students are going to be engaged in digital literacy and activity online. And you can answer those questions too, right? And speaking of Q&A, that's going to cue us up for the next part because we're going to try to land this, we're already late, to make sure that we answer your questions. I'm going to hand this back over to Lauren.
Thank you. And so yes, we are at about 7 o'clock. So we definitely want to honor your time. For those of you that have your children at the Boys and Girls Club, they're there till 8. So we want to give you some opportunity to go pick them up. But we do have some questions that came through, and we want to honor, just know that all the questions that you submitted to us will be responded to. We have them all answered here, but I do want to honor the time. So I'm gonna come back to Q&A real quick. I want to go over some quick updates with all of you, just share some information, and then we'll come back here. And then just know that all of the speakers will hang back a little bit so that you can also speak with them while we wrap this up. And I'll come back to this as well. We definitely want your feedback, and we would appreciate it. We want to be able to continue to deliver educational events that are tailored to what you're asking for. So please, if you can scan the QR code, we'll also be following up with an email. So please just give us your feedback. What do you think about tonight? And then how can we continue to improve and deliver more information to all of you? Our FRC has some upcoming events. Tomorrow we have our first session of 3, led by Stacy Bina. She's an amazing instructor, and she'll be guiding us to 3 sessions on breathwork, meditation, and journaling. You do still have opportunity to sign up. You don't have to register for all 3. You can come to either of those sessions, and they're at the Resource Center, a really calm space. If you haven't had the opportunity to visit us, please do so. But it starts tomorrow. I know that Ms. Nguyen mentioned the book club in the fall was Anxious Generation, and we will be talking about Sean Anker, The Happiness Advantage, in the spring. And so this actually just was released today. I just got the email with the flyers, so I wanted to put it in your eyes first. But please register. I know we had some books available back there, but you have the opportunity to register and come and pick up a book from the FRC. It's going to be a good time. We have different sessions. I believe there's 2 small group sessions, and there's going to be a final wrap-up, which usually is at the Laguna Art Museum, and if you haven't been there, it's beautiful. So please come. This is the contact information for all of the speakers that you heard tonight. And so if you want a screenshot, or we're all available, please email us. We're happy to get in contact with you. I know there's a lot of probably lingering questions that you may have, and so we want to make sure that you have that access to us at any time. So I'll give you a moment to just take a picture. I see a few people. And so this is our resource center as well. These are our hours, and thank you so much to Ms. Michioni for mentioning just the opportunities that you do have. Our resource center is available and open to all of you if you ever want to have a conversation with any of us. We are here to support you and guide you, and I know many of us have said we may not always have the answers because it's a moving target, but we are happy to look into it for you and connect you with the right people, whether that's us or other people. We have a lot of connections. So I'm going to go back now to the Q&A. And there was one question that I think, and I have Ms. Gamache here as well, but I thought that was important to highlight, and I want to kind of go back to it, Ms. Gamache, and I know you answered it. But there was quite a few questions related to what apps or programs can you provide that will help us to monitor our child's use on their devices. And so we're going to be sharing with you all of the information here, but I don't know if Ms. Gamache, you want to come up for a moment and answer it? But because you are one of the experts here for this, so she listed a few that were so informational, and so I want to kind of just bring it up, and we're just going to. I know.
You gotta even remember that.
I'm right here.
My memory's not that good.
Norton family.
Oh, sweet. She actually has the list printed. Sweet. I feel better now. Hi. So yeah, there's a couple that we put in that we like. Some that are really been around for quite a while. A couple that are new. I do recommend this. So the list includes the key features, where it's available. My goal was to provide you guys with items that can be on both a computer or a phone. So it's not stuck to just phones. That tends to be what we look for the most, but some of these are for both. And then also pros and cons, but always research it. What's going to work best for your family is the one that you want to go with. Norton family's been around for ever.
it started off as what, scamware, I believe, for computers. Family Link is brand new by Google. It's very similar to the screen time that you see for Apple. Same kind of features. Bark is pretty new. NetNatty, it's a fun one. That one is location tracking, content filtering. These got some really cool features. RPact, which is for scheduling screen time, blocking specific apps, tracking apps. RPact, that's a pretty new one. Like our, like O-U-R, pact. So that was really new.
I will be sending.
Yeah, you guys will get the whole list with everything. Yeah, I don't want to go through everything because that would take a little while because like I said, there's 7 of them. Okay, so this one I'm going to try to pronounce. I'm going to be really honest. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. It's Mobicip, M-O-B-I-C-I-P. That one's really cool as well. Again, a lot of it is filtering, checking what you're doing, screen time management, stuff like that. And then again, screen time, as we already mentioned before, which is Apple. But luckily now Google has one too, and that one's great for Android. So there's a lot of really great options out there. This is a small list. There's even more than this. Honestly, get on, research. If you're not sure, please feel free to email me anytime. I'll be more than happy to do the research for you if you're not 100% sure or if there's something very specific you're looking for. I'm a queen of research, so I got you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gamache. I put you on the spot and you shine. Thank you so much. Yes, please.
One other thing too. Here I go again. There was a question about the Chromebooks that we send home with your kids and keeping the kids safe at home. So I wanted to let you know, when your kids are at school, we have firewalls that block them from being able to get to sites that we do not want them to go to. We actually have to opt in to allowing them to do research. When those Chromebooks go home to you, those are open to access. So I want to be really clear that our firewalls that we have at school do not protect the kids on your internet. What we do have, because your Chromebooks are configured with an LBUSD account, is something that we call Securely. And when your students look up something like guns, self-harm, things that we red flag, I get an email at 2 o'clock in the morning, as does Dr. Keller and our wellness team. So when we see, and not that it's going to flag everything, but there are things that when they are looking up on our Chromebooks with their accounts that we've configured, we'll get a notification and let you know if we're seeing something that we're concerned about. So I wanted to make sure we answered that question too.
Thank you so much. Those are really useful. I know there were some questions about, do you have a recommendation regarding when kids should be given their first smartphone? Any of our speakers would like to share an answer that they might have? I know that there's various different answers, and I think the overarching message was, you know your kids best, and there are, some of our speakers have, the children have a speaking device, a device at 10 years old. And it's really about being able to be part of the conversation with them, being able to monitor that closely with you. But we don't recommend that, especially at Elmore on Top of the World, correct me if I'm wrong, but devices are not allowed on campus. And so we want to make sure that these students are able to just interact with one another. I know Ms. Gwynn spoke briefly about anxious generation and the play-based versus phone-based society. And so really what we want our students to do is be able to exercise those critical thinking skills by engaging with one another and being able to resolve problems on their own. Often when they're accessing phones, those critical thinking skills go out the window. The thinking is happening for them. And so the problem solving is not happening. We want that prefrontal cortex to be exercised. We know there's a lot of learning that happens over these very formative years. And so if we can give them the opportunity to go outside and play, to engage with the natural world and not the cyber world, that's where we want our students to live, because we want them to be giving back to the community, developing and understanding what our community needs and how can they be active players in that and supportive in that environment. Any other questions? I think we have room for maybe another question. I know there was quite a few here, but if there's any pressing question in our audience, we definitely want to address that. And remember that we can have, if you have any posters and you want to give us any additional questions, we'll be happy to put this in the Q&A and FAQ at the end of this meeting.
Right now, the 5th graders are all wanting to do a text thread. and my daughter only has access to a phone at home on our Wi-Fi. It doesn't work anywhere else. But she also can't access that text thread because I have to input each contact before she can read any of it. But I'm also wondering from the mental health standpoint of, is she being left out, or is that really just not something she needs to be a part of?
Okay. Good question. Do you guys
It's
want
crazy.
to?
I can't see what's being written, but I'm seeing people being removed and people being added and things going crazy and people then responding via private text of like, oh my God, did you see what so-and-so wrote? And so I really don't want her to be a part of that, but I also don't want her to be missing out on.
Ashley has something to say.
I'm going to come at you from a different angle.
Okay.
Who cares?
Okay.
If she feels that.
But that's kind of how I feel. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Figure out some, reward her some other way. Figure out something, go chase a parked car. All those fun things that we were told. Look at her mom, protect her from it. Remember when we went to the grocery store or wherever, that's where we got to see, you know, teenage gossip, kid gossip with, you know, Teen Bop and those kind of magazines. And then we went home and we forgot about it. These poor kids, even in 4th and 5th grade, they're not getting a chance to forget about it, and they're turning into little jerks on their Apple message threads. And the amount of conversations that I've had to partner with Julie and Tom and everybody else with these kiddos is insane. I never thought we'd have to really do that. And you think it's harmless, and you think, you know, because they don't get to pick up the phone and, you know, say, hey, is your refrigerator running anymore? They don't have to do that. So we want to think that they're having harmless fun doing that kind of stuff, but they're not. It gets nasty, and we have the whole issue with shipping. You know, if you remember that big issue where the kids were using TikTok and other things to go ahead and pair one another as if they're in a relationship. And so here we go, another form of hypersexualization of 4th and 5th grade that all started from a thread, a text thread. They're not like us where we're sharing things, you know, it's completely different. So that's my response to it. I'm not the, you know, the expert on the psychology of those things, but.
I'd like to offer also that the genie is out of the bottle, and who has a 5th grader right now? Who has a 5th grader? You don't have to say it. You don't have to say it. Okay, you don't have to say if you have a mobile phone, but for your child, but you're the first group of people that know this information really explicitly. You're the first parents with that age level of student. We have had kids with cell phones for the last 8 or 9 years, since 2011. Smartphones became ubiquitous in 2012. That's one of the first time that it crossed 50% of market penetration for young people and for everybody in the United States. And so we're now we understand the harms, and they're true harms. They're real harms. Suicidal ideation is up. Visits to the emergency room are up, and so much of it is directly correlated, if not caused by mobile phone use and social comparisons. So you have an opportunity to really delay that, and being left out, there's going to be friction in the change process. So I think we would endorse what Jonathan Haidt endorses, which is no mobile phones before 14 and no social media before 16. So I think that's I mean, and I have a 14-year-old with a mobile phone, and I have a 17-year-old with a mobile phone. So and I wish I had a 5th grader and could do it all over again.
Dr. Keller, can I ask, are you seeing it? Is there a difference between like the smartphone versus like a communication device type?
I think the
phone, like
communication devices, I think, are a lot safer. Yes, I mean, we want to be. I mean, you probably want some level of awareness of the location. You want to be talked to, given the geographical region, that you want someone to be able to message you or maybe message their friends. I think with limitations in place, it's a better alternative for sure.
Especially for those of you who have kids who you're dropping off at practice, or you know, if they're staying, or even if they take the bus, you know, that's why there's so many of these other devices that they can use, where you can still see their location. You can turn that on. A lot of them, they still do have cameras, but they're not connected to, you know, a web service provider or something that you have more control of instead of just an app for it. So you can have that peace of mind.
Is there is the Gab phone like? I mean, I'm so clueless. Like, is there a list of like devices that are like that? Like, where's Gab the option? Like I want
That's
to
the
get
one that I'm familiar with, and I swear I need to get it.
There's also another brand.
Yeah, we'll be sharing kind of a list of different devices that you will have access to, so please be on the lookout for that. I want to look at the time, and it's about 7:15, and I recognize we're significantly over the time, and we want to honor that. So I'm going to start to release all of you to that, but just know that we are going to be hanging back. If you have questions, please come up to us, and thank you again for your time tonight. If you have any follow-up questions, please send us, please submit your feedback. You can add questions there as well, but we'll be hanging around.